diversity in the super
Talk
wealthy
about
old
evil.
money than you can believe, and that's why my goal now is to write a book.
Yeah,
and that's only a small part of it. But
I mean,
a lot of people that know Janet say, "Well, you've been through so much emotional and sexual abuse in your life. How did you ever survive it?" And
is this guy still alive? How come
no, he's not alive.
No, he's dead now. He's finding out what happened.
But I've had a dream that his spirit, he is not dead and dead, peacefully
Well,
dead.
Yeah.
Oh, he's running for his life and nothing satisfies him. He's still running.
Yeah, he's in the
like
part
a
of it.
robot with no heart, no brain, nothing, no soul. And he's just running.
See, she was married and a very abusive husband, and she married him to get away from her abusive father, who came back from World War II with post-traumatic stress, but nobody knew what that was, and he was an alcoholic and very abusive, so he would beat, the whole family, and then her mother would stand in, but then after her father died, her mother would be abusive
she
to
kind of
everybody.
Lost it.
So
but
she married this guy to get away from him, and he was a United States Coast Guardman, and he was abusive. So then she divorced him, and then the billionaire saw his opportunity and asked her if she would come and work for him. Well, she needed money, and what else was she going to do?
I didn't know he was stalking me all those years.
Yeah, she had no idea.
You have no idea what
and
people are
10 years later, after they've traveled the world and had a relationship,
I learned more than I ever needed to know about these rich people.
Yeah, and very emotionally abusive.
I was in the circle of the most wealthy old money there is.
She used to go walking with what's her name, Peggy Rockefeller.
Yeah, my brother worked for her.
Yeah, and Janet's brother worked for the Rockefellers, for David Rockefeller. David Rockefeller won't go anywhere in the world unless he has a captain on his staff with him. And Janet's brother, Larry, who's dead now also, he was David Rockefeller's captain. So anywhere that David Rockefeller went in the world on his private 747, if somebody said, "Would you come and meet me aboard my ship?" for those moments that David Rockefeller was on the ship, his captain had to be captain of the ship. So that's how her brother Larry ended up in these late night conversations having martinis with Caspar Weinberger and stuff. And the things that I talk about from that are amazing too. But
my brother and I got to see some of the most evil people on the earth.
Wow.
That we wanted to.
Now, you remember when there was a worldwide search for the evil Nazi doctor, Dr. Mengele?
Oh, yeah.
And nobody knew exactly where he was? Well,
didn't they do a film? Dustin Hoffman was, he was running, I forget the name of it. Running Man or, anyway, Marathon Man. Remember that? It was about Mengele? Anyway,
no, I don't remember it, but you're going to find this interesting. David Rockefeller told Larry, "Get your stuff together, we're going on a trip." And they flew down to South America and took Dr. Mengele on the plane and brought him back to Mount Desert Island, Maine, for 2 or 3 weeks to meet with David Rockefeller, and then flew him back to South America. And this is while there's a worldwide search going for this evil Nazi doctor.
Mm-hmm.
My brother just lost it after a while because he saw things the way they truly were.
He just gave up.
He's psychic like I am, and he could see things the way they really were. Killed him.
Yeah.
And then when she lived with the billionaire, she lived down in Camden, Maine, which Camden and Rockport are next to each other, and they're like beautiful, bucolic coastal towns with lots of lobster fishermen and wharves and mansions, and you think, oh, this is beautiful. But what's interesting is that's where all the CIA agents and NSA agents retire to. And so it's a little too clean, a little too crime-free, a little too perfect. And we were out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, because I was the principal speaker at a conference in Albuquerque. We were out in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we were in a cigar store. And I said to the guy, I said, this town is really odd. It strikes me very odd. And he goes, this is where all the CIA agents and the NSA agents retire. And I go, oh.
Just like Camden.
Just like Camden, Maine. And it's really funny that, like let's say they're administering a stream of, 5 billion a minute, and they think, well, I'll just take 2 billion for myself. Who's going to miss it? and then they're going to retire somewhere. They retire to Camden or Rockport or Santa Fe.
Wow. Well.
Oh. Heart of evil.
Amazing.
We can go deeply off the subject.
Well,
really.
see, that's why I feel these people could have done me in easily, because it's not like they didn't try. But I feel the ETs really saved my ass, and I'm not kidding you.
I mean, Janet would run away from this man and not even know where she's going.
He'd
and
know more than I did.
As soon as she got there were FBI agents waiting, saying, "Well, we're bringing you back to Richard."
No, he just knew there was no getting away with much.
He told her that the government watched, and then there was a really interesting. They were out in, they were going to take a cruise across the Pacific. And they were in this hotel in Beverly Hills, and all of a sudden the Secret Service came in and cleaned out everybody out of this hotel. And she and Richard Payne, that's his name. I can say that because he's dead. P-A-I-N-E, like Payne.
Oh my God. It was Payne.
Like Thomas Paine, like Richard Treat Payne.
A famous Thomas Paine.
So with the Common Sense pamphlets and Robert Treat Payne actually signed the Declaration of Independence. So this family had money before they even came here. I mean, they had trust funds in Boston and London like you wouldn't believe. So all these guests, the famous and the rich, were being escorted by the Secret Service out because President Reagan and his wife were coming to the hotel. And Mr. T for a benefit dinner. I guess it was one of those.
AIDS.
Oh, it was AIDS?
Oh, maybe drugs.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Yeah. So, so the Secret Service are ushering all these famous and wealthy people out the door, and they were yelling over at Janet, "Who are you that you don't have to leave? Who are you?" And it's because, the people that the president and the top, they knew that Richard's great-great-grandfather signed the Declaration of Independence. They weren't going to push him around. And they knew that at one point he was listed by Forbes as the wealthiest man in the United States.
Well, how did you get away?
He told her to get out.
Well, yeah,
she was
finally
done.
I got to go. Finally he found himself some nurses.
Right, okay, so we got the nurses, the twin nurses, anyway, the fantasy. So you're out, where do you go?
Well, she tried to kill herself. And
Well,
that's
it was
what I want to write about in this
so
book.
overwhelming because of what I saw and how much evil I saw that I
She didn't know anybody like me, right?
I didn't mean to do it, but it just drove me off the deep end.
Yeah, she aimed a brand new
bejesus
Honda
out of
Civic
me.
at a telephone pole and hit it at 80 miles
No,
an hour.
I
and
thought
somehow
every
survived.
FBI guy was chasing me. I mean, I was just so afraid by myself for a while because I had gone through so much.
But you know what's funny? She's been in mental hospitals, and in the hospitals, the other patients think she's the doctor. But what's really funny is the doctors come in and they think she's the doctor. So that's the kind of impression she makes personally. Is that, So, but it's so interesting.
Well, you know what it really is I had to get over the abuse, and that all takes a lot of therapy and a lot of time and healing.
And it grew your antenna. I mean, she can recognize.
That's why I'm such a good psychic.
Mm-hmm.
My mind, what happens when all this abuse happens? Your doorways open in the brain, and you can become a really good psychic.
Or you give up, and you didn't give up. And
or you kill yourself, or whatever. But I seem to have made it through. I had a lot of spiritual. I grew a lot spiritually, and that helped heal me a lot. And plus, the ETs. So and meeting Gordon, and meeting a couple of friends.
She had no support in her family. All the time as growing up, she would ask, "What's the meaning of life?" And they go, "That's not important. You just make money and start a business."
I was thinking the other day, there's all my life I've had to think of the big picture, what life was all about, because it was a survival thing too. So I had to figure it out. And some people can't handle looking at life and that realizing what it's all about and what's important. People can't do it.
Right.
They can't go there.
So she really needed to find me because all of that. I knew all about those people and all of that stuff.
And I needed to talk before I met Gordon. I needed to talk to psychiatrists. I needed to talk to anybody with intelligence enough to relate something about my life and about life.
But in her own family, there are at least 2 of her siblings that separately on different occasions said, "You see the gun in the corner? Why don't you just save us all a lot of trouble?"
They're very good business people. They can handle that part of life. But they drink. It's easier to drink and escape than have to think about life. Yeah, because you had a lot of alcohol. Their whole family are all drinkers. Except but I've noticed that in the whole area of no matter where I go, people seem to...
And you can't be in contact with ETs and be telepathic and be psychic
if you drink a lot.
It just doesn't mix. So.
But you really have to do a lot of work to figure what's really going on. You have to be constantly working.
And myself, every spare moment I spent researching this stuff and meditating and thinking about it and what few people I could meet talking about it. And, and now it's really paying off because when I was married for a while and then my wife died of brain cancer, but at the time we would go out and she would say, "Now don't talk about psychics or UFOs or stuff like that." And of course I would, and then everyone would be fascinated and she would be totally flabbergasted, like she was trying to protect, I don't know what she was trying to save from happening, but of course I would bring it up and people were, they just couldn't get enough of it. And so gradually I was writing and then somebody said, "Would you like to be on the radio?" And now I've been on Coast to Coast 3 times and, I've done hundreds of radio interviews, and now I have my own show. So this has all come together. And Janet is the kind of person that would, normally wouldn't be on the radio at all. I've always been like a public figure. She hasn't.
I don't mind being on the radio. I don't like the really late night radio at all, though.
She's a morning person. So.
I like my mornings. I don't like to. I do a lot of dream time, and I about who I'm going to meet the next day, or what animal I'm going to see, or what plant I'm going to see. So I don't like disrupting that world of mine. I will. I mean, there's times I got to stay awake all night, but I really do a lot of dream time.
That's very important to do your dream time.
Right.
Wow. So we could really talk, Janet. Sometime we'll talk because we have so many similarities in our story, and I married my shrink. Sasha is a psychotherapist as well as an anthropologist, and I came with all this stuff. My family is, they're Masonic, so they go way back. And anyway, I don't want to go into my story because this focuses on you. We have about 15 minutes before the break, maybe a little bit less, and I'd like to touch on Sasha's question what was your question again?
Tell us about the pole shift and what we can expect.
But it was great to hear your story, so thank you for telling us.
Thank you.
Okay, every 3,657 years, Planet X, which is known as Nibiru, comes through the solar system, and it comes in laying on its side, so that the North Pole of Planet X is pointed at the equator of the Earth, and that's where it is right now. It's off to the side of the sun. So when you look at the sun, it's not in between the Earth and the sun, but it's at the 4 o'clock position on the side, and it has a twin-stranded 5 million mile long tail with moons and hydrocarbon dust and iron oxide dust. And it's pointing its flashlight at the equator of the Earth right now, its North Pole. And normally, North Poles repel each other. So in other words, people don't realize that if you stood on a table and grabbed the whole solar system and put it on the table, that you would see that all the North Poles of the stars, the sun, and all the planets point north. And so here's the Earth with its North Pole pointing straight up. Well, the North Pole is not a location on the surface. Yes, they say it's the Arctic. But what it is there's magma in the Earth, so there's a heavy iron core, and as it circulates, it creates this magnetic North and South Pole. So right now what's happening is during the day, it is pulling the North Pole of the Earth towards the North Pole of Planet X, which you would think, well, how can that be? The way it happens is the Earth has a handle on it. Now, it's not really a real handle, but in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, which you would think if you go from New York to London, the ocean's just going to get deeper. But under the Atlantic Ocean in the mid-Atlantic ridge, there's a line of mountains that goes from Iceland to Antarctica, and that comes very near the surface, not close enough for you to see it if you're in a boat, but very close. And right in the middle of that ridge is a split, and in the split there's an upwelling of iron-rich magma. So as the Earth turns to the east,